And we are live. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me again on a Saturday afternoon. It's 2 p.m. Well, it's technically 1:57 p.m., but it's 1:57 p.m. EST time. Thanks again for joining me. So today I've got topics. Today's going to be kind of a little bit interesting. We're going to kind of do a little bit of a review, and I want to kind of the topic I was kind of inspired today to talk about the entrepreneur's toolkit. Okay, we're going to talk about a few things in which, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as an individual, this is something you should be paying attention to. Funny story is, so I've got the first topic that I want to talk to you guys is basically the power of networking. Okay, the power of networking. So I've got a conference that I got to go to in Miami on the 29th. If you guys are familiar with Valuetainment, it's a PBD, Passion by David. The podcast, I pretty much watch his podcast on a religious basis. Basically, watch an hour every day. So it's trying a Valuetainment event in Miami, and hopefully by the grace of God, I would get the schedule off. I will be going to that event. So I was kind of like, you know what? What about if the other people out there that are going to be attending networking events, the people out there who want to network, the people out there who want to be in a position in which they can go ahead and increase your business, right? So I want to go ahead and share this with you guys. And this is from my man Alex Hamosi, and he basically spoke about this. Why don't you
Give
put
you the number one tip that networkers won't normally share with you, because this is how you really network in the real world. Instead of trying to figure out some hack or some memorization trick, what you do is you become the most valuable person to everyone else in your network, and they will introduce you to the people that they want to gain status from by making the intro. For example, if you're good at marketing or you're good at selling, help everyone you know at sales and at marketing, and they will make the introductions to other people when they come to terms, because they know that you will provide value to that person. And so they will gain status by connecting the two of you, because you'll provide value on behalf of them. And that is how networking really works.
Okay, all right. I know it was a mouthful. Pretty much what he said. There was a lot of talking there, but let's kind of summarize it and bring it full circle, right? So when you kind of go to a networking event, I'm going to give you guys an example of a networking event I just recently went to. This was back in February. I went to Grant Cardone 10X Growth Con. If you guys are familiar with Mr. 10X, so I was in a 10X Growth Con conference with Grant Cardone's conference. And when I went to the conference, it pretty much is a real estate conference, if you ask me. I think the 10X conference is a real estate conference because majority of people I met there were property builders, people who were looking to basically buy real estate, people who were in some way, shape, or form wanted to learn more about, how to grow the real estate niche. I remember I met this lady. She was like, yeah, I'm like, I have a syndicate, and it was like $100,000 to be an accredited buyer. And I was like, man, you're talking to the wrong person. But no, it was very fascinating. But I realized something there as to people started introducing me to other people when they kind of found out, like, would interact. Like I would talk to, one of the guys I met they were property builders. So their job is in Miami. They own if you actually check out the podcast I think it was episode 4. I think it was episode 4. I did the episode 4 with him. And it was basically, what they would do is basically they would kind of fix up, units in Miami, kind of make them look good. And then they would sell them for a premium dollar. And he introduced me to his boss, and then I sat down with me with this person, that person, this person, that person, and it kind of to me was a very fascinating mindset. First off, it was a grand. I think it was a grand. I think it was a grand to get in. It was a grand for the ticket just to be even able to get into the conference. So it was $1,000 just to be able to get into the conference, and then now. What's even fascinating about it is there were people out there who paid $5,000, people out there who paid $10,000, people out there who paid $20,000. And if you check out episode 2, the episode 2 of the podcast was with Justin Window, and Justin paid $20,000. Justin paid $20,000 to be there, and I was like, okay. So I was talking to Justin, and he mentioned something which was very, very fascinating. So he said he bought a Lamborghini. He's got a Huracan. I think it's a Huracan and an Aventador. So he bought a Huracan, and I was like, yo, man, why'd what made you buy a Huracan? Like, I'm very fascinated by it. And he's like, actually, I don't really like Lamborghinis. Lamborghinis are not necessarily my thing. He had a GTR at the time. He sold it, bought the Lamborghini. And I'm like, so why did you get the Lamborghini? And he was like, well, I bought the Lamborghini because I wanted to be in the Lamborghini club. And you had to own a Lamborghini just to be able to join the club. So you had to buy a Lamborghini. Now, if you guys know how much the cost of a Huracan is, it's not cheap. It's a few $100,000. So it's not cheap for a Lamborghini Huracan. But he bought this car, and basically he got into the club. So I was like, okay, dude, that's fascinating. And he's like, well, you have to understand that you pay to be in the room, right? And I was like, okay. So he kind of expanded. He's like, all right, how much you pay for the ticket? I told him I paid $1,000. And he's like, I paid 20 G's. All right. And then he's like, well, you have to think about it from a perspective is everybody around you paid $1,000 as well. So everybody that's in your premises, in your presence, all paid $1,000. So I was like, okay, what's your point? He's like, well, think about it. I pay 20 G's. He's like, this guy over there is a millionaire. This guy does that, makes this money. This guy out here, this guy out here owns a business doing, 20, 30 million. This guy has this. This guy has this. What was fascinating to me about that was my mind was opened, was like it wasn't like people didn't go to the 10x Grow Con to learn. They went to the 10x Grow conference to network. They went to the 10x Grow conference to basically see how they can improve the people and the surroundings of people that are basically around them. And I was like blown away. And I'm like, so he's like, yeah, because I paid 20 G's, but you don't understand how much money I'm going to make from the 20 G's that I just spent. I may be spending 20 G's, but he's like, there's a lot I'm gonna come from it. And I followed up with him later on, on the podcast and before then, because we actually spoke on the phone. And I was like, hey, so Justin, so tell me about what happened after. And I think he's got what almost a $3 million deal that's coming from it. Now, don't quote me on this, okay? But a few $1 million it's coming from a $20,000 investment. That's the power of networking. And I kind of want to share with you this is because a lot of people don't pay attention to how important it is to kind of be in a networking scenario, in a networking event. There's a study, there's a statistic out here. There's basically, this is from let me see, this is from fitsmallbusiness.com. And basically it shows the business networking statistics. It basically goes into the statistics and basically talking about why how the importance of networking to business owners. You see in the top part here, it says 65% of businesses consider in-person networking via trade shows invaluable for their marketing. Let's say you're a car dealer. Let's say it's Lamborghini. Lamborghini is coming up with a new and improved car. You guys don't see that Lamborghinis don't advertise. Lamborghinis don't market. They're not out there saying, you're not going to see a an ad on a TV. Oh, we just came up with Lamborghini Huracan 5.0. No, they're not going to say that, right? They're going to be in trade shows. You're going to see the cars on trade shows. They surround them with beautiful women to kind of, because they know who their target market is. Because people still value the one-on-one interaction as much as there is still the interaction on the phone and interaction online. People still value that one-on-one interaction. So that's the importance there when you actually come in and you're factoring how networking kind of plays a role, right? And you got to think about it from a perspective as to if you are in a networking event, you meet people, you meet other business owners, you get to touch bases with them. And here's the thing: is you can't even go out for dinner. You guys can get to meet you and be like, hey, listen, this is my wife. Nice to meet you. This is my friend. This is my this. You guys, they get to see you not just as a business or someone who's trying to take their dollar, but they get to see you and actually see you as an individual and see you as a person in which they can actually kind of converse with, someone they can actually relate with, someone in which they can actually be like, you know what, I'm actually going to benefit from this person because we have actually had that one-on-one interaction. That's why if you actually meet someone from a networking event, there's actually, I don't know how true the studies, but it's a 40% close rate. I'm going to give you guys an example. So when I used to sell insurance, I sold insurance door to door, and I also sold insurance face to face, but then I transitioned to selling insurance over the phone. I can tell you this, that when I was selling policies and I was selling insurance, when I was selling face to face, my close rate was about 40% because people got to touch, see that I'm a real person as opposed to me selling on the phone. Now, we've gotten a lot of business from the YouTube channel because most people who've been watching my YouTube channel are actually, or people who do business with, are actually people who are watching the YouTube channel, right? So most of the people right now who are going to be like, hey, listen, I saw your video educating or talking about Ethos Life. We've had a lot of people reach out like, hey, I watched your tutorial on how to set up Ethos Life, which Ethos Life is an insurance company that sells insurance online. And they'll be like, hey, I watched that video. And from watching that video, I was very, very fascinated by that. And I really want to see if you can help set it up. And I want to go ahead and opt into your CRM and to the software that you guys use, which if you guys don't know, we've kind of just went back on the umbrella of Go High Level. So Go High Level is basically the company that, helps us and gives us the ability to be able to fulfill and provide the software service to you guys, right? With a little bit of tweaks from our end. They see that and then, oh, boom, they interact with us, right? So, but if in a sense is to also the podcast, which is very fascinating. So I had a agent, we used to work together, and she called me. She goes, Emmanuel, I watch your podcast. I love it. I'm actually sharing the podcast. I'm getting my friends to tune into the podcast because I think there's a lot of value from it. But that's because one, I know her. People underestimate the power of that one-on-one interaction. People underestimate the power of like, hey, you know what? I'm meeting this person. People underestimate the power of like, hey, we're shaking hands. That actually genuinely plays a very, very, very huge role on the grand scheme of things when you have actually touched bases and you actually interact with someone on a face-to-face basis. Now, this is talking about trade shows, but Around 40% of people network more online than in person. Now, this is a very interesting statistics. If you are a business owner, and I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen sharing there. If you're a business owner and you have LinkedIn, right? A lot of people have LinkedIn, right? If you're used to LinkedIn, you're used to getting cold DMs on LinkedIn, right? Just imagine you're like going about your day, someone tells you, hey, happy birthday. I really enjoyed, whatever it is that, was going on and that you posted, to kind of network with you, right? Because in a very weird perspective is the world, and it's on its own, we're all starting to get connected, right? We're all starting to get the internet is starting to become a web, right? The internet is starting to become a web. You'll be fascinated by how someone is like, hey, you know this person, or you know this person, or you know this person. I had a lady. I was on a flight coming to Charlotte, and we had a very interesting conversation. This was a few years, probably about a year and a half back, and we had a very interesting conversation. And then I'd say a year later, I was talking to a friend. She's like, "Oh, you know my friend. For the sake of this, I'm not gonna say her name." And I was like, "Oh, really? I do. Really?" She's like, "Yeah." And I was like, very fascinated, because I was like, "What are the odds of somebody now you're like, oh wow." Because, and I know it doesn't relate as well to the internet, but think about it from a perspective of, that's an online basis where person A connects to person B, and then there's that relationship there. Now, also then think about it from a perspective of, okay, if you are finding business from Instagram, my orthodontist, look at my teeth. You guys don't understand. Look at my teeth. My teeth used to be messed up. Okay, when I mean messed up, my teeth used to be so messed up that if I was your friend, and if you were my friend before I had good teeth, we ain't friends no more, because you didn't tell me that my teeth was messed up. So why in God's name am I gonna be friends with you now? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We're still cool. We're still cool. But no, my teeth was horrendous. But my orthodontist, what he does is he advertises via social media. He networks via social media. He goes to different events because they invite him from seeing all of his social media posts. I've gotten invited to events based off of my social media posts, which is very, very, very fascinating if you ask me. Now, which also kind of segues into the next topic I want to talk to you guys about, as to, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, people are like, I want to start a business. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. Now, you're also thinking about it from 60 to 70% of people don't start businesses because they're like, I don't have the funding for it. I don't have the funding to start a business. I don't have the support system for my family to do this. I don't have the wherewithal to do that. I don't have the this. I don't have the that. I don't have the this. Now, it brings me to the part. It brings to the question as to, should you bootstrap your business? And what is bootstrapping? Bootstrapping is basically, should you basically use your own money, or should you go ahead and seek venture capital? And if you guys listen to a few episodes of the podcast, I spoke a little bit about. I had a venture capitalist on there, Haya, and we kind of spoke a little bit about venture capital. So if you want to go and go check that out, I highly recommend you go check it out, because we had some very, 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 very interesting nuggets being discussed about people who are actually seeking venture capital. But the reality is, not everybody out there is actually going to be in a position of seeking VCs. But I want to kind of talk a little bit about, should you borrow money or should you use your own money? And I want to go ahead.
As a bootstrapped SaaS business, you're often more effective than VC-backed SaaS companies. I know, this seems counterintuitive, but there's a simple reason. You're forced to be more effective with your money. And because you're starting from scratch, you're also forced to be more innovative with how you operate. You don't have old investors all set in their ways, breathing down your neck. You don't have a large budget, so the whole spray and pray type of marketing is just not an option. And as a result, bootstrapped SaaS businesses end up being much more creative with their tech stack and how they solve problems, and much more deliberate.
All right, I don't want to kind of bore you guys there, because he's talking a little bit about stuff, but the main key thing there that I want to go and talk about, the main key thing here, let's go ahead and bring myself back here. The main key thing that I want to go ahead and talk to you guys about is, I want to go ahead and talk to you guys about basically when he was talking about the concept of bootstrapping, right? The concept of bootstrapping, as far as when you bootstrap, you actually, for the most part, you actually come from a position in which it's your own money, right? It's your own money. It's your own money, which means, it being your own money means you're in a position now where, let's go ahead and come back here. You're in a position now where it's your own money. You're in a position now where you actually understand the risk that's involved. You actually understand as to, hey, you know what? This is going to cost me this much. It's my hard earned sweat. So I'll tell you guys this. So I used to be a flight instructor. So I taught people how to fly planes, right? And I did that for most of 2015, 2016, and I did that for part of 2017. Now, we had different variety of students. We had a few students who would basically, we had students who would come in and it would be daddy's money. mommy's money, right? And we had students who would basically come in to basically learn how to, learn how to fly airplanes, but those students would come in from, it'll be their own money. And I noticed something: the students who use their own personal dollar, the students who use their own personal money, the student who use they actually spent their own hard earned dollar. They valued more of the lessons. They showed up prepared, and they actually learned more because basically it was their own money. Because the reality is this: is the direct the amount of money that you spend, the amount of money, your relationship with money is very much in direct correlation to how much sweat equity you have to put to get it. Your relationship with money is very much related to how much, how much work you had to do, how much, did you have to knock on the door? Did you have to cold call? Did you have to talk to friends and family? Did you have to do ABC? Did you have to do that? That is very much related. So the sweat equity that you put in is very much correlated to the value of money. I tell you guys this: I used to invest in insurance agents. I've invested into 4, 5, 6 grand into into a single insurance agent, into getting their business to a successful point in which they can feed the family. And those agents barely performed because they were spoon fed. They had, if they needed, hey, I don't have the money for leads, can you help me out? I would supplement them. And then guess what? Those were the agents they quit. But the agents in which I did not support in a financial way, but I'm like, hey, listen, I'll be there. You can call me at any point in time. I'll be there to answer the phone. Those were the agents that actually succeeded. Now, I'm not saying this is not an insurance pitch. This is not for you to go, oh my God, Emmanuel's trying to get me into insurance. I have no interest in doing that. I'm not in the insurance business as far as selling insurance anymore. So this is me basically sharing my 2 cents with you as far as, what I basically, my takeaway from that was, it is better if you use your own money before you go ahead and get into debt. Because if you, let's say you have a phenomenal product, the next Facebook, if you spent the next Facebook, think about this. If you spent someone else's money, you're not going to understand the value of it. You're just going to go, hey, you know what? I can just go raise some more money. And while you're doing so, you're giving up equity in a valuable piece, a valuable project. That's the downside. If you're going, oh my God, I want to go do, I want to go, get debt. I want to go do, get some money. I want to go do this. I want to go do that. That's why it's very, 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 very important that you go ahead and actually use your own money. And I kind of want to go ahead and, there's more statistics, and you guys know I used to not be a data guy. But recently I'm starting to realize the importance of actually using data and referencing data. And I want to kind of go ahead and show you guys this statistics here. And let's see if I can pull it up. Here we go. That's what we got. All right. I'm Mr. Producer right now, guys. All right. So here in this data, right? I want you guys to see this. So only about 0. And the key part here is, I want you to go and share with you, is only about 0.05% of startups raise venture capital. So that means if you had 100 businesses go raise venture capital, one wouldn't even get in. So you needed 200 pitches for one venture capital to get investment. 200 pitches for one of them to be like, yes, we're going to invest in you. One of them to be like, yes, we're actually trusting and we're going to invest in your business. For one. And now the reason why I want to kind of go ahead and bring this up to you is, I want you to kind of go ahead and come to the perspective and understanding that, getting other people to loan you their money. I mean, what are the odds? Like, not everybody's comfortable with going, hey, you know what? I want to go ahead and I'm going to give you $2 million, or I'm going to go ahead and give you $10 million. I want to go ahead and give you, however much, because most people, they know from the standpoint that you're not going to value the money just based off of the fact that you did not have to spend your own 2 cents, your own dime to come up with that money. So why in God's name are you going to value it, right? So that's the problem there if you're kind of trying to rely on VCs. Now, very interesting. I know we're kind of segueing into topic here. We talk about basically the importance of networking. We spoke about basically, should you be basically going out there and borrowing money? Now, I want to kind of talk about something which is very near and dear to me, right? I personally believe in, do not, I'm going to stress this again. This is my personal belief. I do not wake up after the sun is already. I don't believe in waking up after the sun is shining. I believe in waking up before the sun before the sun rises, because you are actually seizing your day. You're taking advantage of your day, and you're actually taking life by the balls, and you're basically choosing to be a leader in your day. I remember one day I woke up at, which is even funny. My girlfriend right now, she'll tell you, if I say I'm waking up at 7 p.m. or 7:30, she freaks out. She's like, why? Why are you waking up? That's late. Why are you waking up? No, you don't wake up at 7 a.m. You've never woken up at 7 a.m. or 7:30. The Manuel I know wakes up at 4 a.m. in the morning, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. in the morning. So that's not even possible. So I don't even do the 7:30 a.m. wake ups. But some people, they're comfortable with, like, oh man, Emmanuel, sleep is good. I will be the first to tell you this, guys. I 100% believe the sleep is good. 1,000,000% would tell you sleep is good. If you're saying and struggling and saying, oh my God, I don't want to wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning, at 5 a.m. in the morning. Oh my God, I don't think we should be waking up or that early. No, no, it's not possible. We should be waking up early. Maybe you need to go to bed earlier. Maybe if you're struggling to get up early in the morning, then maybe you need to stop going to bed at 11 p.m. I'm a strong believer. I'm going to say this. I'm a very, very strong believer. And I'm going to say this very, very proudly, that nothing good happens past, 9, 10 p.m. Unless if you're going to bars, you're going to clubs, which technically is just more degeneracy, right? I'm not advocating against drinking. If that's what your thing is, good, but do your thing. But then again, my whole belief with alcohol and drinking is is basically poison. If you research it, what actually gets you drunk is basically your body reacting to alcohol itself. It's it fighting the poison is basically the byproduct of why you actually get drunk. So I'm not a big believer in pushing drinking, because that might work for you. I'm not saying it's not going to work for you. That might probably be a thing. That might be, drinking might be, yeah, that might be a thing. But personally, for me, I'm not a big fan of the effect of waking up at, the next in the morning at, you know, 7 a.m. or whatever time you wake up, and then you have headaches, and you're like regretting the last night, and you're like, what did I do? I spent $400 on drinks. And then if you're a guy, you're like, oh man, I bought her all these drinks, hoping she'd come home with me. And then she's like, see ya, catch you later, smell you later, not interested. Unless you want to kind of be in that situation or kind of want to be in that environment, then honestly, most of you should not be in a position in which you are staying up late. There's nothing good that happens. Like today, I'll tell you guys my morning routine. I woke up this morning, so I do 2 workouts a day. I usually do 1 workout a day, but if I'm home I'll do 2 workouts a day. So woke up, worked out, researched what I got to talk to you guys about today, and then went to the gym, worked out for 2.5 hours, and then came back here. And then I'm here. And then obviously now kind of talk to you. And you're like, dude, that's a lot of working out. It's just kind of like I kind of like my body feeling good, because I believe when your body feels good, you act good, you relate good, everything you do pretty much comes from a perspective and a perception of good. That's my perception of working out. And I want to go ahead and share this video here is to Alex Hamosi. I love using his points here. And he said something here, which is
I woke up around 4 o'clock in the morning just about every day. Part of that came because I started in the fitness industry and I was doing that anyways. Also because I didn't have to talk to anyone until about 10 a.m. And so that gave me about 6 hours of uninterrupted work time that I could really move projects forward. So that means the first thing I did every morning was I would wake up and I would start working. And at the end of the day, if I look at a year, everyone else who's competing against me is still working in their business. But if I wake up at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning and I can work 3 or 4 hours until 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, I get more done in that period of time than most of those guys are getting done in a week. I woke up.
so which is okay. So I want you guys to pay attention to this. I want you to pay attention to this, because he said some very, very, very important things as to he knows if he looks over a year that there's still a lot of people that are still working on the same thing, working on their business, while he's already 10 steps ahead because he woke up earlier. Now, I want you guys to see this study here. So let me make sure that this is actually in a stream. All right. So if you look at this here, so this is basically, I don't know how true this study is, but I'm very fascinated by this. I don't know how true the study is, but the study basically goes, so basically it's a look at times at which people usually get up, right? So it says this as to 1% of people get up at 1 a.m. 2%, this is usually, maybe you get up to drink and water or go to the fridge or get some food and all that stuff. But which is very important. It says 9% of people get up at 5 a.m. You got 23% at 6 a.m. And usually these are people that have to go to work because they're getting up at 6 because they have to get ready and leave the house by 7 to be at work at 8. Depends, right? And then you have people who are getting up at 8. These are people who had to go ahead and show up to their 9 o'clock job. And you have people who are getting up at 9, 7, 9%. So now if you look at the percentage and then you see the percentage increase there is, like I said, I don't know how true this curve is, but if you look at the percentage here, is just by you waking up at 5 a.m., you already putting yourself in the top 10% of people, because it gives you already have an advantage. You have basically a 20 basis points advantage against people who are waking up an hour later, and you have almost say 40% basis points over people that are waking up 2 or 3 hours later. And then you basically have from 9 a.m., which is a 4 hours later, you literally have a 70 basis points over people who are basically waking up basically at 9 in the morning. This basically gives you that extra 4 hours. With that extra 4 hours, because if you actually factor in most people's work week and what they actually do, 50 to 60%, actually 40% of what they do is actually productive. The rest of it is just time, it's just waste of time. Because majority of people, getting ready, getting everything ready, getting the file ready, email and all that stuff, it's mostly dead unproductive time. So less than 3 to 4 hours of your 8 hour work week is actual 8 hour day is actually focused on actual productivity. Is actually you actually being productive. So now you're kind of like, okay, that's kind of insane. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is I want you to kind of basically, understand that if you want to be successful, then you have to do what you have to do what successful people do. If you want to be in the top percent, then you have to do what the top 10% of people do. Now you got to think about it. There's a bunch of reasons why people even wake up early. I even said some. I'm like, hey, maybe they got to work, right? What about if it is from a perspective of most people, 60% of people wake up early because of for work, right? 60% of people wake up early because of work or job related duties. And then you also have 34% of people who are watching this and like, hey, you know what? I want to be more productive. So then they woke up. Some people, which you got another 30% that woke up because they wanted more time in the mornings. And then you have 27% because they woke up because they were parents. Now, if you're watching this, you're a parent. I have a 5-year-old, right? If I wake up at 9 a.m. and I want to work and do my workouts and work, that's going to be impossible because my son is going to be up. He's up. He's ready to go. He wakes up at 7:30 in the morning. He's up at 7:30 in the morning. So if he's up at 7:30 in the morning, I have to beat him. I have to basically beat him by beating him up, by not really beat him up, but like beat him to the punch by basically waking up earlier. So I'm not beating like so just as a catch 22 there. But basically I wake up early at 4 in the morning. So by the time he's up at 7:30, I've already gotten most of my work done. I've already gotten most of the work that I have to do. So by the time he's up, it's like boom. All right, hey son, what you got to do? Right. And if I have more work that needs to be done, my girlfriend's home, he stays home with her. Right. That's basically the perspective and that's basically the perception there that I want you to kind of understand this, dude. There's multiple reasons why people are morning people. There's multiple reasons why you should be a morning person. But in reality, being a morning person gives you the ability to take control of your mornings and basically gives you the ability to take more control and take more control of your life because the reality here is this is the reality is the less you have in control of your life, the less that you are in control in life, the less you are guiding the steps that you actually walk, the more in which you're going to struggle in life. And this brings me to the next point, which is basically the next point, which is going to be basically I want to go ahead and share this topic with you. And this is basically going to talk about the inaction, the cost of inaction, because there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people who are in a position in which they're not taking action. They're not acting because in some way, shape, or form, they're worried about what other people think about them. In some way, shape, or form, they're worried about, hey, how is my mom going to think about this? How is my friends going to think about this? How is everyone going to think about this? So let's go ahead and kind of give
I
this
don't
a
know the
listen.
surefire way to success, but I sure know the surefire way to failure, and that's try to please everybody. It is your surefire way to failure. One of the things I've learned in life is this: you could care about other people without caring what they think. You could care about other people without caring what they think. How they see you, how they perceive you, how they view you, it's got nothing to do with you. It's none of your business. It has to do more with them than to do with you. Just like on social media, I see comments, how people see me, how people view me. It's none of my business. I cannot control that. It has nothing to do with me because as a human being, we all walk around with a filter anyway. You see what you want to see. You don't actually see the reality. None of us see the reality. We just see what we want to see. Whatever.
So, which is interesting is I want to kind of bring this back. Let's bring this back full circle, guys. Let's bring this back full circle as to we see what we want to see. You know what's funny is so I started realizing that my friend group I needed to cut it short. I need to keep a tighter circle. And the reason being was I remember I was at the airport with I had seen this friend with Starbucks and we were, I was like, hey, I'm gonna get Starbucks, and I had a Gucci bag. I had a Gucci bag because the girl I was dating at the time, she bought me books. So she bought me books because she knew I loved books. That's one thing about me is I love books. Right? I love reading books. I have books. So the book was in a Gucci bag. So he saw me with the bag, right? And I was just like, oh man, no. I was like, yeah, no, it's nothing really serious. So I had my coffee, and then he was talking to, talk to a few friends, and but then I knew the people he was talking to. Now, while he was talking, and he was on his way, he had told them, he's like, ah, man, he was a rich bastard. He didn't know I knew them. He just thought he was just stumbled upon random people and dunked upon random, didn't know I knew them. He's like, said all this trash about me, all this trash about me. And then later on, I ran into them. They tell me everything that happened. They're like, hey, this guy, be very careful about this guy because this is what he talks about you. This is what he has to say about you. This is this. I was like, fair, that's fine. And then guess what? I run into him later. And then I run into him and he's acting like the nicest person on the planet. Acting like, oh my God, no, absolutely not. What, did I say anything? And he was acting like me and him were best friends. When in reality, this dude could care less. But the reality and the main reason why I'm bringing this point to you is this: you have to think about it is we as people, we believe that everyone else is thinking about us. We believe that we are the center of the world, that everybody's lives. But the reality is, no, we're not. No, you are not. You are not the center of attention. You're not the center of attention. I'm going to tell you, if you think that people are thinking about you, think again. Because think about it. If you are worried about how they're perceiving you, they're also worried about how you're perceiving them. You're all just walking around worrying about how each other's perceiving each other, when in reality, you guys are all just self-obsessed. It's just a self-obsession. You're like, oh, I'm worried if she likes me. I'm worried if they like me. No, guess what? They don't give a flying F about you. They care about themselves. They are self-obsessed. They're thinking about themselves. They're obsessed with themselves. They're focused on them as a whole, and rather than you actually being focused on you. So rather than you kind of coming up with this perspective of saying, oh my God, people thinking about me. I'm going to say this. The reality is this. We as human beings think we matter more than we actually do. Just straight up. We as human beings think we matter more than we actually do, when in reality, we actually don't. We're a speck of dust. We're basically a speck of dust, a speck of dust. And we are a speck of dust in basically the what is the best way to put it? We're a speck of dust in the whole galaxy. When you zoom out and you realize, you're like, well, technically, no one really does think about me. No one ever really does. I'm just another sand in the grand scheme of things. And I want to which kind of brings me to this video here. And if you guys know, if there's one person that does not give a flying word about anything, it's my man Gary V. And I want you guys to kind of take a listen to what he has to say
You
here.
don't care about people's opinion, but how do you practically do it?
Well, let's play. Who do you think will most carry weight for you? Whose opinion you most worried about? Like cool people on TikTok? Which it could be, I understand that. It doesn't sound like it's gonna be your mother. She loves you and has the framework in a good way too much. So who?
I think it would be like friends, even old friends, even people I don't even talk to.
Anymore. What's he doing? Who does he think he is?
Exactly.
It makes sense. I don't know how to say this in any other way. It'd be a really bad idea to not follow your dreams because of Tyrone from 4th grade. Even more interestingly, I want you to go through that. Adversity is the foundation of success. If you feel like you're not ready for that, that's the thing you should most be doing. Anybody who's listening, if you feel like you're not ready for friends to judge you, you should be putting yourself in a position to have friends judge you more, not less.
We should not care about.
Okay, so that's a very, very interesting, and I haven't actually seen this video, and which is very fascinating. I want to kind of give my commentary on it. And if you say he kind of thought about it, and the guy was like, what about your friends? You're worried about your friends thinking about you. What about your friends from school, your friends from high school, your friends from middle school, the people at your job, the people you work with, the people, the person that delivers your mail, the person at UPS, the person at USPS, the person at this. We're so kind of concerned as to what people think about us, and we're so concerned about being judged by our friends. But I think that has a lot to do with the picture that we see ourselves. Because here's what happens is, think about it from a two perspective. Is you have to understand that when you start chasing your journey and start chasing the idea of success, you have to realize that your identity also changes with it. The person that you are also changes with it. Here's what you need to understand is, my friends of 5-6 years ago, when they see me now, they're like, Emmanuel was a completely different person. There's that party animal that doesn't want to go party, doesn't want to go to club, that wants to be in bed by 8:30, 9 p.m., right? That enjoys and prioritizes his sleep. Because my identity has changed. And you have to understand, the people that were in your life at that point in time, your friends, your past friends, you also have to think about it from a perspective of the identity that you had with them. Was you had the identity of, that partying kid. You had the identity of that kid that was always hitting on girls. You had the identity of this guy. And now you're a completely different person. So yes, they will judge you. Yes, they will see you in a different perspective. Yes, if they are thinking about you, but like, oh, who does he think he is? Because in reality, is they have not adjusted to the identity that you are. They haven't adjusted to the new you and the new person that you are in the phase of life that you are. When people see me and they're like, oh my God, this guy is he's doing this podcast, doing this. Who does Emmanuel think he is? That's because people who would say that are people who used to know me in a different way. And now they're like, that's kind of weird to see you in that way. But that's a shift of identity. There's a rule of 7, which means people tend to adjust and become acclimated more with something when they've seen it more than 7 times. So that's a rule in advertising. So if you want your ads to perform, show it to the person at least 7 times. You will actually see a very, very, very huge and completely different return, even a cheaper ROI in advertising. The same thing is people will judge you, but that's part of the process, because in the process of them judging you, as you continue to move forward, as you continue to progress, the identity that they see you as, your past identity now begins to change, because you now start becoming a different person. So now this different person that you are, they're now slowly acclimating and saying, readjusting the image that they have of you of being this guy. And now they're like, okay, well, you know what? He is this new guy now. Your friends eventually will judge you. And after they judge you, they will laugh at you. After they laugh at you, eventually they will hate you. After they hate you, eventually they will love you. Okay? There's a process. Everything goes by a process. Everything functions off of a process. There's a process by which you have to understand it. Everything, all in all, goes off of a process. And another thing is this is I kind of want to go ahead and share with you is because Gary Vee talks about that, and most people, which kind of brings me to the perspective of entrepreneurs, right? There's are people who are basically wanting to be entrepreneurs who are thinking about, oh my God, I want to take action, I want to do it, and then they're also judging, scared about, oh my God, how are my friends going to think about me? How are people going to realize, look at me? What's going to happen in my life? Yada yada yada. And I want to kind of go ahead. Alex Moses kind of covers this, and I want to kind of go ahead and talk about this so we kind of on the same page here. So
I would read all the self-help books, and I found one of them that said there are people who are wantrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. And I remember hearing that word wantrepreneur. I was like, I don't want to be a fucking wantrepreneur. I was like, I'm not some bitch. But what if they're right? I am a wantrepreneur. I'm not an entrepreneur. I want to be one, and I'm not. And from that point, it took me 6 months to quit my job to actually decide to do the entrepreneurial thing. I would read all the self-help.
okay, so the key here and the key takeaway from this is remember we kind of spoke a little earlier, and we kind of spoke a little bit about the want, we spoke about not taking action, worried about what people think about you, kind of like, oh my God, Tyrone from 4th grade, as Gary Vee would it would call it, worried about what Tyrone from 4th grade would think about you. And then you're in a perception and a perspective where you were scared of actually moving because you don't want to move and you don't want to take action because you're worried about what people inherently will worry about you. And you're also worried about if what you do will actually, if you're actually going to succeed or if you're actually going to fail. And this is where this brings me to the most important. I'm going to talk a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about more about that perception of failure. Okay. And to talk a little bit more about the perception of failure, I want to kind of go ahead and share something with you here. And this is basically from my man, Jeff Bezos. Okay. So Jeff Bezos basically, he kind of explained something. Let me go ahead and pull it up for you here. So he basically shares a story and talks a little bit about the concept of failure. And for people who are like in that perception of like, oh my God, failure is such a bad thing.
You cannot invent and pioneer if you cannot accept failure. To invent, you need to experiment. And if you know in advance that it's going to work, it is not an experiment. And so that's a very important thing. They're inseparable twins, failure and invention. And so you have to be willing to do that. And it's embarrassing to fail. It's always embarrassing to fail, but you have to say, no, that's not how this works. If I said to you, you have a 10% chance with a particular decision, a 10% chance of a 100x return, you should take that bet every time, but you're still going to be wrong 9 out of 10 times. And it's going to feel bad 9 out of 10 times. You cannot.
So, okay. This is very interesting thing because it kind of gives you a different perspective and a different mindset to look at it. Rather than looking at things from everything that happens, even the polio vaccine, I think it was a polio vaccine, was a result of an experiment. Was a result of I think it was mold that went bad or something like that. But your failures are lessons. And you have to think about it in your journey as an entrepreneur. You have to kind of think about it from a perception that you are a scientist. Your job as a scientist is to experiment. Your job as a scientist is to basically kind of go both ways in a sense as to you kind of have to look at it from things from different directions to yes, it might work. Yes, it might not work. Yes, this might be it. Yes, this might not be it. You never know what necessarily might be that key thing that will bring you and catapult you to success because everybody does believe and everybody has this perception of that one thing. Everybody believes that, you know what, I just got to invent the next, I have to invent the next Facebook. I have to invent the next Instagram. I have to invent the next WhatsApp. I have to invent the next this. But you don't understand that the reality of things, the reality of how everything works is you just have to show up. You just have to keep doing it because you never know what might be the thing. And I want to kind of go ahead and bring this video up by Denzel. When
Without commitment, you'll never start. But more importantly, without consistency, you'll never finish. It's not easy. If it was easy, there'd be no Kerry Washington. If it was easy, there'd be no Taraji Henson, Pete Henson. If it were easy, there'd be no Octavia Spencer. But not only that, if it were easy, there'd be no Viola Davis. If it were easy, there'd be no Michael T. Williamson, no Stephen McKinley Henderson, no Russell Hornsby. If it were easy, there'd be no Denzel Washington. So keep working, keep striving, never give up, fall down 7 times, get up 8. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. So
now there's a I want to I know we're kind of changing tones here, but this is very interesting to me. Is most people don't see the perspective of imagine if you're gaining weight. Imagine if your perception of which you're gaining weight. You never see the weight happening, right? It's just an effort. It's a compounded effort, right? You eat a cheeseburger here today. You eat a hamburger tomorrow. You eat this, and then slowly by surely you start putting on a pound, and 2-3 years go in, and next you put on 200 pounds. And you're like, how did I get to this point? It's basically the law of compounded effort. It's basically the law of basically you've been doing something so much, so many times that after a period of time, you have gotten to the point, you've gotten to a position in which now you are in a state of mind, and your body's in a state in which it's changed. It's become something new. You don't even see it. Most people gaining weight, they don't see it. They don't see that they're getting obese. They don't see it because it all happens gradually. That's the same thing with success. It's all about compounded effort. It's all about keep showing up because you never know what that one thing that might catapult you to. You never know what that one thing might be, the thing in which that might move you. You have to be consistently moving in that direction while making little tweaks here and there. If you guys know, I've been watching the channel for a while. Listen, I've had this channel for a few years now. I did something with it. I didn't do something with it. It all depends. But my thing is, I said, you know what? I'm going to do the live challenge where I'm going to show up. I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep bringing you guys value. I'm going to keep talking to you guys. I'm going to keep building an audience. I'm going to keep getting you guys in to understand that, okay, hey, I've been watching Manu's live. I have interacted with him and I enjoy the conversations with him, all of this stuff. But the reality of it and the conscious effort of it is that you have to understand that the consistency is very key despite the ups and the downs. Despite the fact that there might be failures, despite the fact that you might do this here and then this doesn't work, and you do it here and then this doesn't work, and you do it again and it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. You still have to keep showing up. You still have to keep doing it. You still have to keep doing it, irregardless of basically what happens, irregardless of basically, what happens in business. Now, which kind of brings me up into the topic, and the reason I want to kind of talk about this topic was this is a very interesting thing is, in business, a lot of people in business, you're probably in a different phase of life in your business in which you're probably in a point in your business where innovation is happening. Things are happening. Your competition is like things are changing rapidly. There was a saying, and it's a book that says, only the paranoid survive. Only the paranoid survive. Everybody thinks that you're a crazy conspiracy theorist until you eventually become true. And then they wish that they were as prepared as you. Okay. Everybody thinks that you are overdoing it until they eventually realize that that's what was needed, and then they're like, wow, I wish I was you, right? And then I want to kind of bring it in this perspective. This is not a well-known guy. It just kind of, the shorts kind of caught my attention, and I kind of wanted us to kind of listen to it from our perspective, and then kind of break it down and kind of give my 2 cents, and we basically go ahead and we have an interaction. We kind of chit chat and talk about it. But let's go ahead and bring this up.
I heard Howard Schultz say this on a podcast, only the paranoid
And if you guys don't know who Howard Schultz is basically CEO of Starbucks, founder of Starbucks. Okay.
To survive. I'm so concerned every day of what our employees feel like, their sentiment toward the workplace. I'm so concerned that our customers are going to come back and say their food's not as good as it used to be. I build systems and processes in place.
So now I think he's gonna go into a sales pitch and start pitching up on his product and stuff. We're not trying to do that right now. We're actually on a live. So I remember I'm gonna give you guys a story. So I was in an Uber and I was taking this Uber and I was going to the airport. And while on the way to the airport, we started talking, and the guy was talking about, yeah, I used to own a um what's this called? A nursing home. Nursing home. He had like a nursing home or like an assisted living facility. And he's like, I was like, yeah, so why are you doing Uber then if you had the assisted living facility? And he's like, well, what ended up happening was the business had gone to a point in which the business was doing well. And what he did was he just stopped showing up. And then he basically just was show up in the morning, playing golf after playing golf, doing something that does not add value in any way benefit or in any way uplift or actually boost his business in any way, shape, or form, right? He was out doing something, he was out going crazy, doing something else. But what ended up happening was he lost his business. And he said something. He goes, because I actually think the business could work without me. I actually think everything was good. And I'm like, well, you have to understand that if you are in business, if you're in life, everything that you want, somebody else wants. We are competitive and we are human beings. I know people like, oh my God, competition is bad. Oh, why are we competitive? Oh my God, why are we competitive? Listen, competition, you might think competition is bad until you end up losing. Because winners don't say competition is bad, especially when they're the top. Losers are the ones that say competition is bad. I personally believe in healthy competition because competition strives for growth. Like when I was at the gym today, I work out at home, but I worked out even more because I'm like, dude, there's people around, right? And in a way, there's some elements of competition when you're like, you're like curling a weight, and then somebody shows up and starts benching 250, and you're like, okay, this guy's benching 250, and then you go and you rack up and you go 275, and after 275, you're like, yo, man, I can beat this guy. Someone goes 350, and the next you guys go in there like, competition is healthy. I'll be the first to tell you guys that. I personally believe that competition in some way, shape, or form is healthy. But I digress. I digress from the point of basically the part I was trying to get into. But the main key thing I was trying to say is this: is paranoia is important. Paranoia is important in life. Paranoia is important in everything that you do, because if you're not paranoid, then somebody else will come take a spot. Now, I want you guys to understand. I want you guys to think about it from a perspective of how many businesses you guys remember. Blockbuster. If you guys, for people in America, do you guys remember Blockbuster? Remember when Blockbuster was a thing and everyone was like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna go get some CDs and stuff and rent some movies. Remember when Blockbuster was a thing, right? Where's Blockbuster now? Gone. They had an employee of 84,000 people. Gone. Netflix came and swept them out. Enron. How many people remember Enron, an American energy company, right? Where are they now? Done. Gone. BlackBerry. I used to use the BlackBerry. I used to love the BlackBerry. Where are they now? Gone. Okay. You look at another one, Kodak, camera. Where are they at? They're gone. That Kodak was a company that was existing since 1888. 1888. And they filed for bankruptcy in 2012 because they stopped being paranoid. Obviously, there's more reasons to that. Sears, fairly recently, 2018. Boom. Where are they now? Pan Am Airlines. Where are they now? MySpace. Where's MySpace? Gone. Yahoo. Well, Yahoo isn't gone, but Yahoo, I mean, if you guys, I don't know who uses Yahoo anymore. I mean, I have a Yahoo email, and they keep emailing me. If you don't log in, we're going to close your account. I'm like, dude, close my account. I don't use Yahoo. No. Polaroid. I mean, we can go down the line. Xerox. Where are all of them? You got to think about it as to the perspective of if you don't keep innovating, if you don't keep improving, if you are not paranoid, the marketplace will wipe you out. The marketplace will take you out if you are not constantly innovating. If you're not constantly being basically trying to outdo the competition, the marketplace will take you out. Right? Now, it just kind of brings me into this: is there is the AI revolution. We are basically in the AI revolution. Okay, we are in a point to which ChatGPT came out. ChatGPT is taking over businesses. You're like, you don't believe me? You don't believe? I want to show you guys this because most of you might be like, oh man, you're just blowing smoke up someone. Yeah. Let's go ahead and kind of let's get this to load here. So this is a McDonald's robot. Okay, so think about it. The robot basically is pulling up to you. The robot is basically pulling up and it's showing you and bringing up your food, right? So the robot basically brings up your food to you. And once the robot brings up your food, you go ahead and take your plate and it goes away. And most people are like, that's fun, that's fancy. But guess what? That robot took the job of a waiter. That robot took the job of a server, of somebody to actually show up there and actually deliver your food. I want you guys to pay attention to this.
What sort of jobs would be lost to AI?
Basically chauffeurs, truck drivers, and many jobs that seem a little bit complex. Chef, waiter, a lot of things will become automated. We'll have automated stores, automated restaurants, and altogether in 15 years, that's going to displace about 40% of jobs.
40% of jobs.
So there was the AI revolution, guys. There's the AI revolution. 40% of jobs. 40% of jobs are at some point in between now, 2030, 2035, 2040, is going to get automated. If you're not even seeing it, I mean, look at the writers' strike in Hollywood and stuff. I don't really know much about it, but I can use ChatGPT to write me a script. Why do I need the writer? Right? The AI can come in and do the work. Copywriters. AI is basically coming in and basically taking the jobs of basically copywriters. It's a growing industry. It is basically growing, and it will continue to grow in different industries because, one, I want you guys to see the trends as to what's basically happening. Let me go ahead and share the statistics here with you guys here. So basically, if you look at this from reason decision making, there's a 47% increase between the 2018 and 2022 when it comes to the AI. So AI is actually increasing more. If you look at it from a perspective of coordinating and developing, 53%. All of this. Now, think about it from a perspective of if you're a copywriter, you're like, oh my God, I write copies, and now for some reason I can't do it anymore because people are now shifting towards AI. AI is coming in, and AI is taking all the industry, taking all the jobs. AI is coming in and doing everything. And I want to share this. This is another data from dataprod.net, and it says 37% of businesses and organizations employ AI. 37%. Okay. Now, 67% of Americans, I'm gonna say this, believe self-driving cars are safer than regular cars. So, which means people are already adopting the notion that AI can do a better job than humans. Okay. So now this is just basically. This is just a speculation of data, but it's saying the rise of AI will eliminate 85 million jobs and create 97 million new ones by 2025. So what does that mean? That means that it's not all doom and gloom. It's not all like, oh my God, AI is going to come in and take everything and destroy the world, which, by the way, I want you guys to see this, which is very fascinating. I want you guys to go ahead and see this. Let me see if I can pull this data here. I want you to pull this data here. And I want you to see, even if it's not all doom and gloom, this is just something that was kind of fascinating to me, and I kind of wanted to see if I wanted you guys to basically see this. Let me pull it up here. Once my screen loads, yeah, there we go. We got it right here. So I want you guys to see this right now. And there we are. Okay, perfect. So,
what would be the most nightmare scenario you can imagine with AI and robotics that might present a danger to people?
The most nightmare scenario I can imagine with AI and robotics is a world where robots have become so powerful that they are able to control or manipulate humans without their knowledge. This could lead to an oppressive society where the rights of individuals are no longer respected.
Do you think we're in danger of that happening now?
Not yet, but it is important to be aware of the potential risks and dangers associated with AI and robotics. We should take steps now to ensure that these technologies are used responsibly in order to avoid any negative consequences in the future.
Okay, now that's all like the doom and gloom that I kind of want to just kind of talk about a little bit for now. But you see that's kind of a little fascinating there, if you ask me. As far as like AI, and it's actually saying that. I don't know if it's a script. I don't know if it's kind of like actually genuine. But the reality is 90 something odd million jobs are going to be created in the future by artificial intelligence. Now, my question for you is this: are you going to be in a position in which 84 million jobs are going to get replaced? Are you in a position where you can take advantage of the 95 million jobs they're going to be created by AI. I'm going to be doing a video. I'm going to be doing a cover next live as to different industries that you can get into. And that I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be tomorrow's topic. We're going to talk about different industries that you can get into that are AI, new AI jobs that have been created, and why you should kind of get into that. That's going to be one of the topics we're going to be talking into tomorrow. But that's it. Thanks again for joining me today on a Saturday night or Saturday day live. And then tomorrow will be another Sunday live, guys. And I tried, like I said, guys, the goal is to do 100 of these over the next, few months. And then we knock it off once we get a 100-day live challenge. I feel good, you feel good, and I hope you guys benefited from this. And as I always say every time, guys, I always say, what's what I always say?